community as well were observing or witnessing overdose situations. So they were being directly impacted by what they were seeing and observing within either the facilities or work that they were asked to do. And we needed to come up with a solution or way to help them with this particular issue. Certain departments across Hennepin County already have staff that have naloxone or Narcan as part of their job responsibilities as first responders, such as law enforcement, healthcare, medical facilities, security officers, that kind of role responsibility. They have all the required training, deploy naloxone in real situations. The issue is that they are not everywhere across all county facilities. So we do have buildings that have libraries staff primarily at them or human services staff, and they may not have a security person or first responder directly at that site. In response to that, County Administrator David Huff requested that we pursue a naloxone voluntary use program. Next slide, please.
Nothing like a good Teams app crash mid-presentation. Sorry about that, y'all.
Do you want me to keep going or?
Yeah, I think we can go.
Okay, so there's really 4 factors that impacted how quickly we could move on implementation of the program. We first needed to identify a source of naloxone. The FDA, or Federal Drug Administration, recently authorized more widespread of over-the-counter use of naloxone. We had some challenges with where we're going to go to find that source through a vendor. Initially, we ran into challenges around needing a prescription and being able to get a supply of naloxone that we could distribute out. We had to develop a system that would account for training, attestation, staff acknowledging that they understand the main components of the program, and a request form for the supply as it was voluntary. We wanted to make sure that staff feel comfortable deploying it and knowing what to do in very difficult situations. We needed to meet tight timelines and select a tool that allowed us to manage intake, assignment, and delivery of supplies. And it was critical the timeline was actually moved up by the administrator in response to wanting to get something out there quickly to all staff that voluntarily wanted to use it. And this might date me a bit, but I have the A team on the right-hand side of the slide. But we needed our A team. And what I mean by that is we needed the very best staff that we had within Hennepin County from all different disciplines to pull this off. And we delivered on it. So what a great team of staff we had. If you could pick a team, this certainly would be it. They were also strong in their areas of expertise, and we aligned really well with the project goal of trying to save people's lives, that are residents, clients, and individuals with naloxone. And I'll turn it over to who's next.
All right. So back to me. We wanted to talk a little bit about some things we've done to prepare for success in being able to handle this project quickly and meet the timelines that were set by administration. So some things we had done as an organization around Power Platform, we had a governance process in place. It was something that we'd been working with for a couple years already, so it was familiar to people that were going to be working on building this app. We also had engaged with our leadership, both in IT and countywide leadership. They had some familiarity with Power Platform, some of the benefits of it, and some things that we could do using Power Platform, which helped this product become selected for this particular solution. We had also made some licensing investments. So we had worked with our IT leadership to have premium licensing available across our organization. So this app is actually deployed countywide to all staff. And without that licensing investment, we wouldn't have necessarily been able to build it in the way that we did. And then we've also had a partnership with our enterprise architecture team. This has helped with solution designs and using Power Platform for enterprise solutions. So we've been working with them both on what the technology is, as well as the appropriate use of it for us as an organization. And then from a development standpoint specifically, the team who's been building or who built this solution has been working with Power Platform for over 3 years. This is the first Dataverse-based solution that this team built. However, they'd been building SharePoint-based solutions for a long while prior to this. So it wasn't a brand new ask for them. They had already defined some internal best practices around development and branding, things like that, to make sure that we were consistent and following our brand guidelines. And then we've also provided a number of training opportunities to our development teams. We've leveraged DSE and EDE support contracts to partner with Microsoft on some of that as well. So with that, I think we're going to turn it over to Teng and let him demo the app that was built.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Jessie. So before I start, just want to share also a couple more details about, the breakdown of what happened with this solution. And so when we first initially got this on our plate, I think one really cool thing was the timeline in which we completed the solution, or most of the development of the solution. And that's really that really just speaks to how powerful and how easy it is to build these low code solutions and have it achieve something great. So yeah, so our solution that we built here, it's broken down into 3 main solutions. And this first one that I'm going to show is not going to be representative of what it actually looks like for the end users, but I have it here just embedded in a SharePoint site page. And what this is what we call just the training app that allows the end users to capture that they've completed the training. And so this app is a Canvas app that was actually embedded inside of a third-party training software, where at the end of that training that they take, they get this screen with the Canvas app embedded into it. And by clicking this button, it would generate a record in a Dataverse table for the system to basically keep track that, hey, this user has completed the training. So aside from that, the app has 2 more pieces to it. So the next piece is another Canvas app, and this Canvas app represents the apps that the end users or the requesters are going to be using. And so we try to keep this app as simple as we can, along with basically everything about this solution. So from the perspective of the end users, they could request a supply in one of 2 scenarios. One scenario is that they have completed the training and then they go ahead and submit this supply request. Or if they haven't completed the training, they could come in here and submit a request and be manually approved. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to go through the scenario where I have not completed that training prior. So upon entering the requester app here, if you have completed the training, this form would actually look differently for you, in that this dropdown would actually populate as yes for you if you have that training record in the system. And then subsequently, you would see the attestation text immediately if you had completed that training. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill out this form here. I can select where I'm going to pick up that supply or where I want to pick up that supply. And then also if I'm required to carry naloxone as part of my job. So at the county, we have people who are required to carry naloxone as part of their job. And this program or this solution that we created is not designed for that audience of users. And so if that is yes, they would have to follow their appropriate process for requesting naloxone for their job duties. So in this case, you have to mark that as no. And then down here, we have the attestation text that they can choose to agree to. And upon selecting yes, that submit button becomes enabled for the end user to submit their request. So again, this scenario, I did not complete the training prior. So it tells me that my request has been submitted for review. And what's going to happen here is that it's going to trigger a Teams approval flow through a flow. And I am going to get that in my team shortly here. Yep, and I just got it here And so what the approver will see, and the approver is a designated user that we designate in the system. They will get this notification where they can choose to approve or reject that request. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and select approve. And so that's going to go ahead and generate my request for a supply in the system for me. I will also, the administrators of the solution will receive an email notifying them of that new request. And so here we can see that email that the administrators will receive. And then from there, they can go into the second component of the solution, which is the model-driven app. And so the model-driven app is really what we would call the like administrator app, where all of the inventory management happens and assigning requests to inventory. So following the same theme of trying to keep this app simple and easy and effective to use for our users, on the left-hand side here, we have all the pieces that the administrators really need to touch. So for our requests, we have them broken down into different views, and within these views, displaying only the pertinent information to those views. So by default, they're able to see all of the unassigned requests that have come in that need to be assigned. And then additionally, they have an inventory table here where they're able to add new batches of inventory into the system, or just simply just view what the inventory looks like in the system. And then this last one is maybe the most important piece of this administrator app, which allows the administrators to select requests to be distributed for a particular supply. So first thing they do in here is come in and select a batch that they would like to distribute for or to. And so they select the request that they want. And what we've done here are a couple of things to also reduce user error. So you can see here that this batch has 2 available supply that can be distributed. And so if I'm selecting requests to distribute to for that particular supply, you can see that once I select 2, I actually cannot select any more requests at that point. So this makes it impossible for a user to make an error where they're over assigning a supply. Additionally, let's say I've selected this one where there's actually 50 available supply to be distributed to. From here, I now have the ability to select more requests. However, if I look back at the batches, I'm now unable to select any supply where I've already selected past the available supply that is available for that batch. So just some things we've put in place to prevent any user errors or over assigning of the batches of supply. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a supply to my request that I just submitted and hit distribute. And what this is going to do on the back end is create some relationships between the request and the inventory supply and tie those two together in the system. Following that, the requester will receive an email notifying them that, hey, we've assigned a supply to your request, and that's going to be distributed out to you shortly. Additionally, we also work with another department at Hennepin County, Central Services, and they are the ones that actually handle the distribution of the supply to the preferred pickup location that the requester selected. And so they will receive an email as well, and is actually going to look pretty much identical to what I showed you before, with just some information about who requested it, what the batch number for that supply is, and then where they want to pick up that supply. And so the central services team will receive this email and do some things in their system and get that supply ready for that end user, and then notify that end user when that supply is ready to be picked up. And then from there, really, that's most of the process. The last part of the process is if that same end user comes back into the requester application, instead of seeing that new attestation screen that they saw before, they're now greeted with a dashboard. And from this dashboard, they're able to see all of the existing requests that they have submitted in the past, as well as request a replacement supply. And so the form is very simple. They simply choose where they want to pick up that new supply, and then they select the replacement reason. Now, the replacement reason is going to be important in this process because generally, if they're requesting a replacement, something happened with their previous supply. So in this case, let's say that the product was used. This is where we're going to capture the story behind what happened with that existing supply that they had before and put that into the system. So if they select that it was used or deployed, they can select the date that it was used, whether the incident occurred at a county building or not. And then we'll say, yes, it did. It occurred at the government center. And after administration, they were responsive and alert. No, EMS did not have to get involved. And then they can provide a general description of the incident. So essentially filling that out and hitting submit, that is going to capture all of those details back into the system and submit that new request back into the system for the administrators to assign that request to a supply. So that process just kind of restarts again from the beginning. So that is basically the app in a nutshell. All right, and with that, I will pass it off to, is it back to you, Jessie?
It's actually going to be over to Chad to talk about kind of our end user experience with this app.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Teng and Jessie. Chad Gangelhoff again. I'm the end user for this app, and really what I wanted to kind of point out was this particular naloxone inventory management app has proven to be an exceptional tool in our workflow for this program. As the primary end user, I found its interface to be exceptional. The design is highly efficient. It facilitates the swift processing of orders, as you just saw. The availability of the information allows me to look at each request and each requester and greatly simplifies the management of the program's requirements, making it a really slick way to process things on the admin side. And then of particular significance for us is the app's integration with Power BI for robust reporting and in-depth analysis. That feature holds importance to us as it not only enables us to present program results convincingly to our leadership and our stakeholders, but also equips us with the precise inventory management capabilities, enabling us to predict timing for procuring additional products, but also to determine the quantities accurately that we need to get. So as the end user, I'd just like to say I've been very pleased with the tool's design, its capabilities, and its overall operation. So thank you very much for your time.
Great. And then we wanted to talk a little bit about what's next. So with the naloxone project specifically, we're looking to integrate with our PAM system API. That is the central services system that handles all of the requests for mailing services and shipping services. So when we've just started discussions about that, but when we do that integration, it would be our first custom connector that we've built as well. So there have been a number of firsts surrounding the naloxone project with our team. And this is really to help streamline processing for distribution partners. So as Teng mentioned, right now they get an email that says, here's the information for distributing this supply to an employee. Instead, we would put that directly into their system to be able to handle for them. As Chad mentioned, we're integrating some Power BI reporting for the program and leadership. That's still in development with our BI team. And then we're looking at some expansion of distribution locations. So as Teng showed, there were a couple different options today, and we'll be expanding that out in partnership with our central services team and some other projects. And then as an organization, when it comes to the use of Power Platform, we're really looking to continue partnering with architecture and our project intake teams to identify opportunities for these type of solutions. We've been doing a lot of adoption and education throughout the organization over the past few years, and we plan on continuing that, as well as maturing some of our existing processes and solutions, doing that kind of continuous improvement on those. So with that, are there any questions for us?
Nothing in the chat right yet. So I'll ask a question, probably more to Teng. I heard you had impressive statistics around hours it took to develop the solution. I'm curious as how many developers, what types of skills did you have? Did you start with background in Power Platform, and then how did you scale up your team to be able to essentially deliver that in that quick time?
Yeah. So our team has about six developers, but really maybe 2 main Power App developers. But kind of like what Jessie alluded to on one of her slides, it was really a product of just that 3 years of solid Power Platform experience and all the governance that was set up around the Power Platform, that really allowed us to be successful in developing this in a short time frame. So without those pieces, I don't think this would have been possible.
Okay. So 3 years, I mean, so what was your experience in the beginning? I've had customers that at first struggle a little bit with working in the boundaries of a platform, but what was your experience like? Just curious.
Yeah. I think initially when Power Platform came on board, it was the process of converting a lot of InfoPath forms into Power App forms. So that's kind of how my Power Platform journey started off. And these were all SharePoint-based solutions. And then from there, we've kind of just grown as far as our skills.
Apologies, my Teams just crashed again.
No worries. Do you have something to add, Jessie?
So I saw the note about how users get to the landing page. Teng, do you want to cover that? Because I think we're getting folks there in a variety of ways.
So I believe the link is available on a SharePoint site, and they can access that link, which will bring them to the landing page for the requesting a supply from there.
So Jessie, can you read the questions? You want me to kind of ask them? Or did you have a Teams fail again? All right, I'll give it a go. Question in the chat. What does your licensing plan look like for your organization? Not sure if Jessie would be the right person for that, or Teng, if you can weigh in.
Yeah, that is a Jessie question. She handles all of our governance and licensing around Power Platform.
Let's see if we can get her on here. Jessie, can you hear us?
Yep.
All right, so just asking the question, what does your licensing plan look like for your organization?
Sure. So we have licensed every employee with a premium license across the board. We made that investment at the end of last year and decided that we wanted to move forward with being able to use that across our organization, particularly being able to leverage Dataverse. So that was kind of where we landed, was Power Apps premium licensing across the organization. We generally do flow licensing on a developer by developer basis, depending on what's going on. The majority of our flows are linked directly to the to a specific Power App.
Yeah, I've had some exposure to Hennepin through some of our customer success managers, and I think you could probably do a session just on how you've been able to create those communities and roll this out like almost countywide. So it's definitely impressive. So congratulations on that. All right. So could you tell us more about how you decided to, could you tell us more how you decided to provide your license to staff?
Sure. So a lot of our decision making came down to looking for use cases throughout the organization where this could be beneficial. We knew anecdotally that there was some potential benefit to having premium licensing across the organization, but we didn't necessarily have like the hard data to back it up. And as part of deciding to go that direction, we gathered those and were able to provide a case for licensing everyone. This particular solution probably wouldn't have worked as smoothly without it, because we are leveraging things like Dataverse and the model-driven apps that we wouldn't have been able to leverage as smoothly without having licensed everyone. We would have likely needed to build it with a different data source.
All right, cool. Can you read the chat? Is
Yeah.
the next is the story captured for reporting only?
I think Michael or Chad, do you want to talk about like why we're collecting some of the data after for like replacement?
Chad, can you go ahead and talk about that?
Absolutely. Thank you. So we do capture a lot of data for reporting purposes and for us to be able to analyze where things are occurring or if we're seeing trends of issues going on in certain areas or use in certain areas. But absolutely, one of the things that we're looking to do is to be able to identify those people that have had those situations occur and be able to reach out to them for a couple things. One, to be able to provide them employee resources if they need to have any kind of discussion or after action briefings related to those incidents, but also so that our communications team could reach out and say, is this something you'd be willing to discuss? And your story and powerful message could really be a huge impact to the rest of the organization as we share out those communication stories. So it really goes, I think, both ways.
Very good. We got 2 questions on why Dataverse. This feels loaded. Teng, this might be a good one for you.
I think
what-
Jessie can actually answer that one.
We really see Dataverse as a great data storage platform, and being able to integrate with like the model-driven apps. That's really what where we've seen some huge benefits with it. While this was our first Dataverse-based app, it is by no means going to be our last. We're already working on some additional ones, and some other areas of the business of our like line of business IT are also starting to build in Dataverse as well, or have already got some apps out there. So we wanted somewhere that we could easily work with from a data perspective and still have some controls in place as far as who's allowed to build data and things like that. We've as part of our governance processes, we put in some training requirements around those, and we again partner with our architecture teams to make sure that we're capturing that data in a way that's usable. We view data as a enterprise asset, and we want to make sure that we're capturing it in a smart spot.
Yes, very
And
good.
I just want to add, from a development perspective, I think utilizing Dataverse, like Jessie mentioned earlier, this was our first Dataverse solution, and from a development perspective, I think we relatively didn't run into much hiccups at all developing on Dataverse, and the integrations between the different tools within Power Platform was very seamless utilizing Dataverse. And so, yeah, I think that kind of just speaks to how easy it was to pick up and use Dataverse as our backend versus something like SharePoint that we were used to before.
Yeah. I think it's also important to call out that the project team overall was open to suggestions when it came to this. Power Platform may have not been their first or their initial ask, but because of that investment with leadership, it kind of got pointed in our direction for this project. And I think it's been a really great story and success of, how we can leverage these tools that were already part of our tool belt, basically, for development. So.
How long have you been in production? Have you had any outages? Have you had to update with the newer release yet?
Teng, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So we've been in production for, what is it? A month now. And we haven't had any outages, but we have, yes, provided a few updates to the app to help with some of the admin side of things on the app. And another cool thing that we're utilizing with this solution is the use of Azure pipelines. And so because this solution is contained within a solution file, deploying any changes from our sandbox environment to the production environment has been a very easy going process. It's literally just a single button to deploy the assets over, and all the changes move over, which has been really great in comparison to how we've been doing things that are not based in a solution container.
That is great, by the way. I know solution management has been difficult in the past, so to hear that is pretty outstanding.
All right. It looks like there's some more. It sounds like we have a dedicated team to support and update Power Apps. Can you speak to labor and headcount dedications? So we have myself in our Enterprise Strategic Solutions team, who is Power Platform is my primary responsibility. And then on the development team, we currently, it's 6 full-time developers and then a couple part-time developers. So a lot of folks on that team transitioned from what used to be our SharePoint development team when we were on premise. And as we were migrating to the cloud 3 or 4 years ago, we made the conscious decision that anything that was development owned at that point, to modernize it and move it out of InfoPath, move it out of SharePoint Designer Workflow, and start moving it into Power Platform at that time. So that's where a lot of our experience comes from. And that's, we've kind of expanded it to more M365 products since that point in time. So. And then for environments, currently for most things, we are 2 environments. So we do a sandbox and a production, and do most of our testing in the sandbox environment. A lot of that comes from building with SharePoint and not having like 3 SharePoint sites for each solution to kind of migrate through those environments.
You got one more, Jessie.
Yep. Okay. So when we say developer, are these folks SQL developers or more power users of Power Automate and SharePoint? So everyone on this team is what we would consider a professional developer. So they can do a variety of tasks across a number of different stacks. I think the majority of folks were SharePoint developers, building things like InfoPath, building things like some SPFX type things, stuff like that, and have transitioned more into the Power Platform space. We do have also some robust like maker community. So folks in lines of business, both in the IT areas of lines of business, as well as just like business staff who are building things as well. But usually anything enterprise level that we want to have some, standards around, that tends to go to our enterprise development team that handles the M365 products. And then there's the question about hosting the pipelines. So we did set up a completely separate environment to host our pipelines. And that is working smoothly. So we've been expanding our environment strategy, and the use of the pipelines app has definitely made that an easier transition, especially for folks that aren't necessarily in that traditional IT space. So, but yeah, we opted to stand up a completely separate environment for hosting that.
Good stuff. All right. Anybody else have any other questions for the Hennepin team? All right. Well, Jessie and team, thank you so much. It was great. I thought the presentation was awesome. Love to learn new things and what people are doing. Congratulations on the app, and definitely appreciate your partnership and presenting today to the community. So if that's it, I think we will adjourn.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.